Shalom everybody, Akiva Gersh here, Israel Studies educator from AMHSI, and bringing you to the awesome city of Zikhron Ya'akov, up here in the beginning of the north of Israel. This is the main street here, a cute area with stores and coffee shops and restaurants, a great place for Israelis and Turks to come to spend an afternoon or morning, part of their day, just enjoying this great place. And one of the things I love about this place, and really Israel in general, is that you can be out and about having a good time, going shopping, getting a coffee, getting some lunch with some friends. And all of a sudden, as you're walking, you stumble upon a place, a site of important history. And this is something that happens all over Israel, right? You can be going to like a soccer game and right next to it is like the remains of a building hundreds if not thousands of years old. You're on your way to visit a friend and you're visiting historical sites that go back to the beginning of the Jewish presence in this land. And Zikhron Ya'akov is no exception. Maybe the history here is not as ancient, but here I'm just, walking up the street, this main street of Zikhron, which was one of the first streets in this city that was established by Rothschild, who was one of the saviors and supporters of the First Aliyah, the first wave of Jews coming to this land towards the end of the 1800s. But I come up this street, after getting my coffee and after doing a little bit of shopping, and I stumble upon, right over here, this place, this house that is right behind me now. And I want to share with you a little bit about this house, because this house is probably one of the most important houses in all of Israel. Why, you might ask? This was the house of the Aronson family, right? And they were one of the first settlers of Zikhron Ya'akov. And their children, two of their children, Sarah and Aronson, were members of a Jewish spy ring called NILI during World War I. Now think about it. World War I breaks out, and the Turks are on one side, the British are on the other. The British, along with other countries, have their plans of conquering and overcoming the Ottoman presence in this land that has lasted for hundreds of years. And the Jews living in this land, which number in the tens of thousands, have to make a very important decision. I'm going to take my glasses off for a moment. Sorry about the mask. That's just the reality here right now. They have to make a very, very important decision. They have to decide who to support. Do you support the British, or do you support the Turks, right? If you support the British, that's going to put you in potential great danger with the Turks. If you side with the Turks and the British win, oy vey, right? So anyway, there was a split in the Jewish community here in Palestine at the time. And many Jews supported the Turks out of that fear. But there were a group of Jews, a small group of Jews, who supported the British, and they wanted to help the British as much as they can to conquer the Ottomans, to get rid of the Ottomans out of this land, because they knew that if Zionism was ever going to succeed, the Ottomans couldn't be here. Think about it. The Ottomans don't want there to be a Jewish state, right? Zionism begins at a time when the Ottomans are ruling here in this land for the first few decades of the Zionist movement. Right? So they're building, they're growing, they're trying, they're striving, but at the same time they know if the Ottomans continue to be here, we're not going to succeed. So what happens? World War I breaks out. Horrible thing for humanity, right? But one little silver lining, if we can even say such a thing, is that eventually it brings down the Ottomans, right? The British, we know, will conquer and defeat the Ottomans in this land, right? And one of the ways they're able to do that is through the information passed on to them by this Jewish spy ring called NILI. And here, basically in Zikhron Ya'akov, specifically in this house, was like their headquarters. All right, it's a long and complicated and unbelievable story that literally reads like a spy novel. All right, but I'll just say this: through Aronson's work as an agronomist, right, he was allowed by the Turkish government to travel all over the Ottoman Empire to help them with their agricultural challenges. And as a result, during the war, that opened up the gates for him and others to collect vital information about Turkish military positions and movements that they were able to then collect and pass on to the British. How did they pass it on to the British? The first way was through meeting them on the ocean. Down the hill, a little bit up north, there's a town called Atlit, and that's where Sarah Aronson had his field station. And from the beach there, they would meet in 1917. A number of times they would meet this British boat that was passing from Egypt up north, and they would pass on this vital information. Right? Eventually, that became too dangerous, and they moved to carrier pigeon. Right, but they collected incredible information. They passed it on to the British. The British took this information and used this information. Meanwhile, we'll say that eventually one of these carrier pigeons gets caught by the Turks. They find out what's going on. They come here to Zikhron. They surround it with their military, and they find that this place, this house, right, is like the central headquarters for this Jewish spy ring. Sarah Aronson is out of the land at this point, but Sarah, his sister, is running the show from here. And they arrest her, they interrogate her, they torture her, right? And eventually they're going to transfer over to another police station in Nazareth. And before they do, she requests, can I just go to my house, change my clothes? She was dirty, she was bloody. They allow her to do it. They put a Turkish soldier outside. She goes into this house, right? And she goes into the bathroom and she takes a gun that she had concealed for this very purpose. She writes a note saying what had happened to her, saying that she was tortured, but she didn't give out any information. She takes a gun and she shoots herself. Unfortunately, she did not die right away. She dies a few days later, right? But this information that NILI, this spy ring, hands over to the British will help them to defeat the Turkish forces here in Palestine, conquer Palestine, and introduce an entire new chapter to this land that will be way more open and friendly to the Jewish vision, right, of a Jewish state here in this land. So again, we're here in Zikhron Ya'akov, having a coffee, getting some lunch, doing some shopping. We pass this house, and this house literally, right, is a testament and is a memorial to a small group of Jews that made a choice, that made a decision to do something, and what they did changed history and literally opened up the gates, opened up the doors for the creation of the Jewish state and for the return of the Jewish people back to their homeland after 2,000 years of exile. All the best from Zikhron Ya'akov, and be well.